Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video, and in today's video we're going to be looking at the 2022 Senate elections and the Republican Party's path to victory in these elections. So this is not a best case scenario video, this is not my prediction, but this is a video that's saying, if the Republican Party takes control of the Senate in 2022, what's the most likely way that happens? So which seats are they most likely to flip that would give them control of the Senate? So we're going to get started with the seats that are going to be safe for the Democrats. These seats are not going to flip in a million years, and if they do, I'll be very, very surprised. Connecticut and Illinois could be likely, but I don't think they're going to be. Certainly not New Hampshire. Vermont, New York, Schumer's seat. Colorado, I'm not going to touch just yet. Now, for the Republicans, Idaho, Utah, the Dakotas, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, Iowa with Grassley running, not going to flip. Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Ohio, I'm going to get out of the way right now because, realistically speaking, if the GOP is to win the Senate, they're not going to lose Ohio. That would be a disaster for them. So I do think that we should just get that out of the way. Same with Alaska. I don't think that Alaska's, it's a complex situation, but I kind of want to get it out of the way for this video because the GOP is not likely to lose it in the first place, and they're also not necessarily, I guess, not likely to lose. It's a really complicated situation, but I think they are favored right now, whether that be Murkowski or Toshiba, both more likely to win it than, Al Gross or whoever the Democrats put up. But I do think that we should just get it out of the way for the sake of this video, and that if they were to win the Senate, they definitely hold on to Alaska. Now, I'm also going to, I guess for similar reasons, I'm going to get Colorado out of the way. I think it would be likely in this situation where the GOP has a slight overperformance at the Senate level. I guess at best for the GOP in this situation, they'd probably lose it by 7 or maybe 6, but I think they're going to lose it by 9 or 10. I think 10 or 11 is the margin they're going to lose it by. If they overperform a little bit, they'll maybe lose it by 8. So I guess in this situation, they go with them losing it by 8, but it's not worth talking about because it is Colorado and it is a state that the Democrats are likely going to hold on to for years to come. So these states, I think, are kind of more competitive states. I'm going to eliminate one more state, and I think Florida. Florida's likely Republican. I think it's closer than people think. I think Rubio's going to win by, people say he's going to win by 10. I think he's going to win by 6 or 7, maybe 5. Val Deming, she seems to be running a good campaign. If she keeps this up, she could make it easily a 3 or 4 point win for Rubio. I don't really think he's going to lose, but it could get a little closer than people think. And I think that we should talk about it. And I plan on making videos on this race specifically and why it's so interesting in the future. But right now, I do think that Florida, for this situation, for the sake of this video, we're not going to talk about it. So these are states that I think the path for each party runs through. So now, for this video, we're going to make it a 51-49 scenario for the GOP, but at the end, I'll expand and say which seats, if they got 52 or 53 seats, what that would be likely to look like. But yeah, now, so the GOP of these states, which they most likely win, I'd say that is North Carolina. North Carolina in this situation, I think that they would win by a lean margin, and I'll tell you why. So North Carolina, the Republican Party has had some close calls here in the past. I mean, they've won it to their credit. They've done they've had many close races, but they've done well enough to win it. In 2020, Donald Trump won the state by 1.3%, I believe. In the Senate race, Cal Cunningham, Tom Tillis won by 1.7%. In 2016, Trump carried it by 3.5%. In the 2016 Senate race, the Republicans narrowly held on. So the Democrats, they've come really close to winning a lot of statewide races in North Carolina, but they have just been, a couple points short, and Joe Biden lost state by a point. So this is a state that has been very close, and I think, the Democrats are knocking on the door. They're always there, and they can always absolutely win one of these races. Now, the reason they're not favored in 2022 is because, A, it is a Biden midterm, which I think is a lazy argument. You can't just say it's a Biden midterm and expect, there to be a red wave. I think that's silly because it's 2022, not 2010 or 2014. But, it being a Biden midterm does not help Democrats. It doesn't help them with the energy factor, and it does not help them with the undecided factor. So the GOP has that going for them. Now, North Carolina, the Democrats are in an awkward spot right now where, they've improved in the suburbs, but they're still losing ground in rural areas because rural North Carolina, there's a lot of places in rural North Carolina that still aren't as red as they should be, and the GOP is still gaining a little bit in rural North Carolina. They won't be in 10 years, but they are gaining, minor, in areas, kind of near the Asheville exurbs that are more rural, Boone, they're kind of gaining in those areas that are more rural. Now the Democrat, and by the way, the GOP is also gaining in similar situations, not just North Carolina, and they're also gaining in the more rural black parts of the state that are northern kind of in the north central part of the state that has, a lot of rural black voters. They're gaining there as well. The Democrats are kind of making up for this and keeping it close by gaining in the suburbs and, having good turnout from urban areas. So it's a really close state, obviously, but I don't think that, I don't think it's going to flip in the first place. And, if the GOP were to hold the Senate, they definitely hold North Carolina. Now, the next state is another lean Republican state in my book. Oh, and I labeled New Hampshire as safe Democrat. I did not mean to do that. Someone's going to comment about that, but my apologies. That is a bad mistake on my part. But yeah, so New Hampshire is a state that, it's very elastic. I've talked about this in videos, and those who watch my videos are saying, UEP, stop talking about this, but it's important. It's important to reiterate. New Hampshire, voters there are willing to vote for a Democrat at the Senate level and then elect a Republican governor by 30 points. It happened in 2020. I know in 2020 we didn't see a lot of split ticket voting, but we did see in New Hampshire Jane Shaheen win her Senate seat by, I think, 16%, which is, pretty big amount. While at the same time, Chris Sununu won his governor's race by 33%. Sununu is the Republican governor. He's quite a popular figure there. And he's been speculated to run for Senate. Now, he has not declared. He has not even started fundraising or anything. He has expressed minor interest, but it's kind of up in the air. Now, again, I think he's going to run. I could be proven wrong. I would not be surprised if he doesn't run, but I think that in this situation, they'd win New Hampshire by 3 or 4%. And Sununu is a popular governor. So, I tweeted this the other day, by the way. Shameless pump. Follow my Twitter. I'm at 670 followers. I'm trying to get to 1,000 by the end of the summer. Not likely, but if everyone who's subscribed to me on YouTube follows me on Twitter, that would be wonderful. So, New Hampshire. I tweeted this the other day, and I think I might even have to pull it up just to talk about it for a second. So, essentially, the original tweet that I quote tweeted was Evan Scrimshaw, who, by the way, was the lead guy for Lean Toss-Up. Actually, the OGs will remember that back in October of 2020, he called me a fool on Twitter for saying that Donald Trump was going to win Texas by more than 5%. I don't think he likes me very much, but I did retweet him. He did say Chris Sununu 22 is Steve Bullock 2020, who is Phil Bredesen 2018. So, what he's saying here is these are all popular governors who lost races. Bredesen was a Democratic governor from Tennessee who was supposed to make his race really close. He lost by 11. Bullock was a popular governor from Montana, supposed to win, supposed to make that race really close. He lost by 10. So he's saying that, Sununu has a lot of hype. He's a popular governor, but it doesn't mean he's going to win the Senate race. So he's actually calling for him to lose. So what I said was, I said you can't compare Tennessee in Montana to New Hampshire. And I said, in 2020, Tennessee was 27.6% away from the national environment, meaning that, it voted 27.6% to the right of the national environment. And Montana voted 20.8% away from the national environment. New Hampshire voted a little bit to the left of the national environment, so it is a more democratic state than the average, but only by 2.4%. It was miles closer to the national environment than Montana or Tennessee was. And so, I'm saying you can't compare Bullock or Bredesen to Sununu because they're not in the same ballpark. Sununu is in a lean Democrat state. Bullock was in a safe Republican state, and so was Bredesen. And then I retweeted myself, and I actually said, in 2016, Steve Bullock won re-election by 4%. In 2020, he lost the Senate race by 10. If Sununu does the same and runs 14 points behind his gubernatorial run, he'd still win his 2022 Senate race by 18%, by a safe margin. If he ran 14, if he did what Bullock does, or if he does what Bullock did, he would still win by 18%, and I'm predicting him to win by 2 or 3%, not by 18. So I think Chris Sununu, if he were to run, absolutely, it's very likely that he'd win, and I think it would be a lean Republican race. So that puts the GOP at 49 seats, and I'm going to give them one more seat here. So I'm going to give them Wisconsin here. This is the most likely of these remaining seats to go for them. These last four, I think the Democrats are favored in overall. Whoa, excuse me. I don't know what I just did there. Remember, I just messed something up. But anyways, as I was saying, in Wisconsin, the Democrats, they're really close. I think this is going to be the closest Senate race in 2022 as of right now. And I'd say the GOP has like a 52-53% chance of retaining it, kind of a random number, but it's really close is what I'm trying to say here. And, Ron Johnson, whether he runs again or not, it's going to be close. And I think, the GOP would be better off if he didn't run, but whatever, he could still win if he did run. So Ron Johnson, if he were to run, and I'm saying, and I think he's going to, so I'm going to assume in this video that he does, he could still win. I think he'd do that by performing well in the wild counties, which is what he did in 2016. He actually did worse than Trump in some rural areas and in a lot of working class areas. He did better than Trump, and a lot better, in the wild counties. That's why he won by more. He won by 3 in 2016. Trump only carried it by a point. So, he did very well in the wild counties, and I think he's going to do worse in the wild counties in 2020 than 2016. I think everyone agrees on that. But I would still argue that Sununu is someone, or that, not Sununu, that Johnson is someone who, I guess, has the ability to surprise some people, like myself. I couldn't underestimate him again, and win the wild counties, and do better than Donald Trump did in 2020. Do better than he did in 2016, potentially. Or than, maybe Leo Vukmir in 2018. So, and we can actually make the comparison. Leo Vukmir was a pretty right-wing Republican who didn't do that well in WoW anyways, but he still did better than Trump. So, you can say, is the Democrat, or are the poor Republican performances in the WoW counties due to Trump, or is it just a general trend? I think it's a little bit of both, but I think if Johnson can buck the trend one last time, he can absolutely win Wisconsin. I think he's favored right now. So that gives the GOP 50 seats. Now, one of these seats I think the GOP is not winning, realistically speaking, is I don't think that they're going to win Nevada. I think Nevada, their lead candidate for that race right now is Adam Laxalt, who lost the 2018 governor's race. Not super strong of a candidate, and I think that Catherine Cortez Masto has good appeal to Hispanics in Clark County, which makes up 75% of the population. So I think Nevada's not likely to flip. I think in Arizona, the GOP is going to have a really rough primary there between Mark Brnovich and Blake Masters. So that's going against them, and I think that Arizona is just to say that the GOP has not been performing well in the past 2 years. In 2018, they lost a really winnable Senate race they were supposed to win. 2020, they lost the presidential race narrowly, and Mark Kelly won the Senate race against Martha McSally again. So I think these states are lean deep, but Georgia and Pennsylvania I could see going either way. Now, this video, I said I'm going to give the GOP 51 seats, and that 51st seat is Pennsylvania. So Pennsylvania, the Democrats have a primary going on there with some really interesting candidates. It could be John Fetterman, could be Malcolm Kenyatta, could be Val Arkush, could be really anyone. Maybe Madeline D, maybe even Connor Lamb. So, this race is a really interesting race, mostly because it comes down to, the Democrats are losing in rural areas and working class areas. There's no doubt about that. But can they continue Biden's good performances in the Philly suburbs? Because Biden had the best performance for a Democrat in the Philly suburbs since, Bill Clinton. He outperformed Obama in Chester County, in Montgomery County, in Bucks County. So can the Democrats continue that? And, maybe if they don't, maybe if they run a little behind Biden in, Chester County, for example, which has, almost as big as a congressional district. It's a big county. Matters a lot. Can someone like John Fetterman maybe improve a little bit on Biden in rural areas or working class areas or in Pittsburgh? So that's really what it comes down to. And I think that, even if the Democrats run someone bad, I think Fetterman's an okay candidate, but, he has some minor scandals, So if the Democrats perform poorly in these races, or with Fetterman, if Fetterman, does poorly with a certain group, that could easily tip the state towards the GOP. And I think the Democrats are narrowly favored in Pennsylvania. This is a state that Joe Biden won despite doing really poorly in working class areas and in rural areas. So I think that the Democrats are favored here, but they could lose. And I think that there are a lot of things that could go wrong for them in this race. And I'll give Georgia to the Democrats. I don't really want to talk about it too much because this is the majority that the GOP needs. Just label as tilt D. My current prediction is lean, but if the GOP won Pennsylvania, they'd probably, and if they lost Georgia, they'd probably lose it by a tilt margin instead of a lean margin. But that's it for this video, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Comment what you think down below. Do you think, maybe the GOP's got a better shot in Georgia than Pennsylvania, for example? But that was this video. I'm going to do this for the Democrats. I'm going to say what is the most realistic Democratic path to victory in the Senate. But that was it for this video. I just said it like 3 times in a row. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.